This is AV SuperFriends On Topic, a 30-minute monthly roundtable focused on a single topic. This discussion will be opinionated, to the point, and saturated with our well-known blend of painfully won expertise and deeply ingrained immaturity. For August 2023, it's the AV SuperFriends On Topic. Welcome back, everybody. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure with the AV SuperFriends. Hello. Where's my notes? They just scrolled. There we go.
There's notes, Chris.
There's notes,
Come
and I'm
on.
scrolling things. My name's Chris Dector. I'm joined today by Jamie, Mark, Larry, Justin, two browsers, and a special guest, Marina Walton, instructional designer from Trinity University. Welcome, Marina.
Thank you for having me.
Justin is using two browsers, but for those of
it's
you
about
who
to go nuclear over here.
Justin.
Yeah, don't.
We have
say
some of this recorded.
anything
Justin
about
spent
this.
almost 20 minutes troubleshooting his system, and then at the end he says, maybe I'll open a second browser.
I've already tried that once.
So we'll see how well this goes.
It's all about the context.
So on today's show, we're going to talk about faculty support and supporting faculty and lifting with your legs, not your back.
Wait, what?
But first, we do have some AV news, and this article comes from Ed Scoop, link in the show notes below. And the title is, University Faculty Want More Time to Evaluate EdTech. I also, this was based on a study from WGU Labs, which is it's a third-party research group formed or at least governed by Western Governors University. Not 100% sure on that, but they've got a bunch of stuff on their website. So that link's below as well. Anyways, short version of this article, it says that faculty like this new stuff, but really wish that they had more time to play with it and were consulted before it just suddenly started showing up. So I figured this was a relevant one for us to bring up. I'm just going to open to the panel. What do you all think about this?
I agree.
All right, case closed. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
That's one of the biggest complaints I ever hear. And it's, I think the biggest complaint is that, well, we just figured out how to use the other one, and then you got something new. Because we're really bad about signing contracts, we being plural universities all over, we're really bad about signing this contract for this new whiz-bang, but it's a 3-year contract. Well, it takes 2 years for anybody to get really good at it, and then there's this other thing that's better. It's the same thing, just different name. And that's the biggest complaint I heard, was like, nobody even asked if we liked what we had. They just gave us something new.
Yeah, the contract said it was time to get something new, Jamie.
But
that works.
Technology decisions by committee tend to, oh, good Lord.
No, yeah. I think we all kind of look at this and like, well, yeah, I think a lot of faculty would like to have more say or get to use this stuff before it shows up. And that does speak to our testing labs and things like that. But have any of you had success getting faculty to come in outside of their contract to come in and actually play with technology prior to it being deployed? That's always been our problem, is we could build 1,000 fancy new places of things we're going to be doing, but they're saying, yeah, I'm not going to show up till I teach my class. So
right, and that's kind of what we've seen too.
It's not in my room. I don't.
Yeah.
A lot of our problem is just bridging the gap of that conversation with faculty. And the only time that I can do that is during needs analysis when somebody asks for a project. I mean, they're gone during the summer for the most part. You do have some stragglers that are teaching summer courses, but it's not the vast majority. And then whenever we're busy building systems, they're gone. And when we're supporting systems, they're busy teaching, and it's really hard to find that efficient time to bridge those gaps.
And I do believe that a lot of them are creatures of habit. Go ahead, Larry.
I have found, like, if you build the relationships, then I do have some instructors that will come in and have conversations, like, especially when I was at Butler, we were redoing the Air Standard Classroom, and I was able to get a small group together of faculty from different schools and kind of test out the system. Now, it wasn't everyone's voice, and there were still people who complained when I took away the 4:3 aspect ratio and went to a widescreen. But
you're always going to have complainers. No matter what you do, there's going to be someone that complains. So,
I think.
Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, Marina, Larry's loving it. Just
that's what Jamie
jump on Jamie. The floor is yours, Marina. You
Marina,
go. Yeah,
you are
the
going.
floor is yours.
No. Well, I was going to say that I've seen all of that. And I think what we tried in the past, and I don't know if you all have tried this, is putting that technology in their space. Like, like if we want to test out a doc cam, we bring it to them instead of leaving it in the test space. Because we will get those people who are motivated, who want to try technology, and they'll be the same people, the repeaters that come. But if we really want to know what faculty think, sometimes we just have to bring it to them.
So how do you break that down? How do you do that? Do you just start cold calling people? You show up on their door and be like, knock, knock. You want to try this cool thing?
Camera?
Like, what is? Hey, you want to try this cool
Here
doc
it is.
cam?
I'm dropping this off.
Yeah, I'm dropping this off. See ya. How did
No.
talk about what that process looks like from
Sure.
a communication standpoint?
Absolutely. It's like at first, well, you all have seen this where you get the problem presented to yourself. So I guess in that sense, if we see a problem, then we present it to all faculty and reach out to them and say, hey, I want to test this doc cam out with your department. Do you mind if we place it in this classroom and we collect feedback, and we'll come to you and talk to you about it, right before or after your class. That way we don't disrupt anything. But there's also the building that relationship with faculty that you already know, and maybe seeing if they can talk to their chairs and things like that to help get that conversation going too on other technology that they may want to try. Or, hey, we noticed that there's a projector in here that is really small in resolution. Maybe you need an update. Let's try something. I want to do this. Are you interested? Can you get with your chair? So it's those conversations, but also, and it's not just by email. It's like coming to their offices and their classrooms, because they're not going to answer your email. They get so many emails, they get their students.
Personal
It's
touch?
true.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
They always say that, oh, I get too many emails. You can't communicate with me with email. And it's like, well, how do I? If I carrier pigeon? What's the best
Exactly.
way? I don't know.
I was going to say an owl,
you just
but
can you message me through Blackboard or something, right?
Yeah, it's probably
Right?
more efficient, whatever the LMS.
So what, Marina,
have-
what's your time limit on that equipment? Do you just give them a week or a semester? Or what's the normal length of time for something that's a evaluation period?
in the past I've seen a semester. You want
Okay.
and also you want to see how well does that product hold up. You don't want to invest in a product that's not going to last very long, because you're also getting that testing too going. You can test it all day long in your office, but once other people keep poking and prodding at it, it's different. So I say a semester. It could be longer. It could be shorter, depending on the time frame too. That always is a factor.
In your role as an instructional designer, do you have like a short list? If I was to call you and say, hey, I need 2 or 3 people I need to bounce some ideas off of, do you have this short list, like these are my go-tos? Is that something
Yes.
that you kind of keep at the back of your mind? And is that the easiest way to find people? I mean, are they talking to you? Because they're not talking to us unless there's a trouble ticket, right?
Yes.
I mean, is that an avenue for people?
Yeah, absolutely. My previous role, I wasn't an instructional designer. I was an instructional technologist, and I worked with the AV group, so I was under them. But what I would do with the techs is we would hold little events, so that way we could build those relationships. One event that I did was a meetup, just a quick meetup, and during happy hour, because that's fun. But they got to meet them in a not in the classroom and not where they usually see them. It's in an informal environment. So that way I could help bridge that, and they could hear their concerns, and the professors can hear where they're coming from. And it was great. They liked it because it's a different setting. But for those, the technicians always try to meet them outside of that trouble ticket, if that makes sense. Like just go on a different day, even though they're super busy. They were like, you know what? I'm gonna go check on them and see how they're doing and just say hi. To build that relationship. Yeah.
I used to do the same thing at Butler. We would partner up. I was the AV side, but I would partner with an instructional designer, and we would host lunches at all the different schools. And we would get them in one of the active learning rooms or one of the unique spaces and just talk about how the rooms are functioning, what they're doing. If there was some new thing we were going to think about trying, that would be a good opportunity. It was outside of the trouble tickets, but it gave us a chance to get to know them on a personal level.
Yeah.
Larry, do you miss Butler?
At times, it's that little tiny school.
This show, it's kind of, I'm getting a feel today you're missing Butler today. I don't know. You mention it a lot.
It's interesting. Going back to the EdScoop article, when I read through it, I thought it was going to be one thing, but my takeaway was I get this sense that a lot of faculty are seeing application level changes happen fast, whether it's embedded in the LMS, in those types of things. And I could definitely get that there's a burnout there for that turnover, because we've all been bombarded with gobs and gobs of different software and application things. But I was hoping that there was going to be something in the article that actually spoke to the physical tools that existed, because I would love to get more feedback on that kind of thing. I'm not sure, because I think that's where we have a vested interest, but we've seen that in our campus as well, where it's like, there's too many new things and new features and all that stuff that I don't have time to actually unpack and do that. I'm not sure even if we had a sandbox or a thing to test applications, because theoretically they could test them at home, right? They don't have to come into a space unless it's imperatively like interacting with the hardware in a room. But this article doesn't really unpack that piece of it.
No, and I see this. That's kind of what I was getting to earlier, was that sometimes it's the software stuff that we can't control. I've had 3 conversations this week with different faculty members who are extremely frustrated by the overcomplication of Zoom and Canvas and Teams, because they're like, why do they keep adding this stuff that none of us really want to use? And all we really want to do is whatever that thing is. And I found it very interesting. They didn't understand that has nothing to do with any of us.
I think
that is all coming directly from Microsoft or directly from Zoom. And they're like, oh.
Mark, to your point, a lot of it is because I think we're seeing 2 things here. One is more and more services are cloud hosted. There was a update that came through Office 365 this week, and it changed a bunch of the user interface, and you go down and you ask the software deployment team, and they're like, but it's Microsoft. We don't care. It seems good.
It's updates.
They're like all in on like, well, it's from the cloud. It must be okay. I can see that from the faculty standpoint. Like if they're teaching tools, something just changed. Jamie, to your point, they added new features into Zoom that they're not using, and now there's an extra button they have to click around or something, or now that's hidden under a menu, and that thing that they used that was right there is now moved somewhere else. We have no control over that, but at the same time, well, it's coming from the cloud, so it's good. The other thing is, and you're right, the article and the study itself does not differentiate between hardware and software. They use the generic ed tech term, and they all mean software is what they mean there, which is a little also, I think, doing a disservice. But we'll let that one go
let them have it
for now. But a lot of the software changes were driven by COVID, and in the response that a lot of schools had was, how quickly can we roll out a lot of this stuff? Or here's this thing that maybe we only had limited license for, and we're going to buy a campus-wide license and just give it to everybody. And so all this stuff kept coming. And these tools were the response was probably very similar to a lot of schools. I heard it at several different universities as well, saying, well, but this is our solution for this. If you want to do that, you have to use this piece of software. This is how you do it. Whereas a couple years prior, it was kind of like, well, you have this option or that, go buy whatever you want, and so it's a different model, and I get that where it's coming from. So I think we're seeing a convergence of a couple of different things here. So that said, I want to close out our news segment here and move on. I'm going to play a quick little commercial for us, and we'll come back. We're going to talk additionally about more faculty support options right after this important message. It's come to our attention that a lot of you may be missing out on a whole mess of other AV SuperFriends content. Here's the deal. If you're hearing us only once a month, you're getting ripped off. Seriously. We have over 100 full episodes of content, and you've heard only about 1/3 of that. We release at least 3 shows every month, and you're hearing only 1 of them. To get the rest, go over to avsuperfriends.com, and you'll find links to your favorite podcast services like Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, and more. But if you want to do it right, you'll subscribe directly to our RSS feed to get each episode right away. Do it now! Faculty support in general, this is a tricky thing. And Jamie, you and Marina started talking about this a minute ago, as far as like, how do we identify and find these champions on campus? How do we find people who really are invested in it? They care. They want to be involved. They want to build the best learning environments possible. They have a vested interest in their teaching success and their students' learning success, and not the ones who are just like, because I got an email about it today, hey, I saw this department has a cool video wall, I want a cool video wall. I'm like, well, all right, that's fine. We'll come up and help you build a cool video wall. But
I want my 4:3 PowerPoint on that video wall.
Yeah. And I hate it because I think I find that these people, the ones that we want to talk to, are so self-sufficient because they care so much that they're doing the work themselves, and I never find that. I finally found one today. Had a wonderful conversation. I'm like, where have you been? She's like, right here.
So I'm the opposite.
How can I not find you? Where are you?
I want to talk to the complainers and the naysayers and the people that are going to get in our way because, and I've said this before, I like, biting off that hard bite first. Like, give me the biggest problem first, and then the rest is easy, right? So if I start with the complainers and get their buy-in, then it's all downhill from there. No, not the way to do it. The hardest thing first. Go right after it.
Marina, let me direct this to you, since you work directly with faculty on all this stuff in a slightly different role. Yeah. Are the complainers? I mean, are those legitimate champions to start with, or do they just want to complain because they're upset about something else?
I think it's both. It could be because I've seen it both ways, but it's good because I kind of agree with Justin. I feel like they will, if you get them on your side, they're going to go to bat for you,
Yeah,
which is,
you flip that
great.
narrative, and they're going to spread that narrative throughout their whole department, and that those people in that department know they're negative people. Like, oh man, this person is buying into this. We need to go check this out, and it kind of radiates from there. Exactly.
But going to Chris's question on like, how do you find these people? I would go. Now, my boss at the time was very big on that we go observe people, any faculty that we want. So that was one way I got to see who was rocking it in the classroom, like doing an amazing job with the technology. But the other way was I would reach out to their chairs and say, who do you think is a champion using technology in the classroom? And they would always have someone for me to reach out to, always. And when I would reach out to them, I would say, we hear that you're amazing in the classroom with technology. You're an expert. We want to know what you're doing. And
that's great. Feed their ego. That's important. Feed that
they
ego.
Are, right? Like they are. If they're making an impression on their chair, why not?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so do you find that with like new rollout stuff? Like if you're looking for a new idea or something you want to roll out, like what has driven that? Like that assumption or that hunch that we want to say, oh, this is a new thing. We think faculty are going to like this. Or is there like a committee that says, we want to try this? Like what's the path for you that you've seen?
It's both for new things, but also when we want to improve things. And then also if we want to build a committee, these are the people that I want to know who are using technology, because that there's those faculty who they don't want to use technology and they're set in their ways. So who is open-minded to improving the standard technology that we have in our classrooms, and who's going to innovate to create new places that we want to use new technology in.
Because to me,
what if it's not necessarily new tech? What if it's better utilizing what's there, or modalities, especially questionable, undefined modalities that may have become popular over the last few years?
Well, like I want to flex my Zoom. I want to flex my Zoom.
Exactly.
I mean,
Marina, how do you flex Zoom? Tell us about it.
Bend it backwards. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think there's that contingency of folks, that faculty, that they want to do right, and maybe they're tech savvy, maybe they're not. But I often get the feedback from them that, I'll just give me any space. I'll walk in, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work for me, right? And so, I'll ask them, let's pretend, like, what would you like to have here? Like, tell me what you really want to do, and we can provide those tools. And they're like, well, we'll just make it work. And it's like, so getting that actual intentional time to say, what would you like me to design for? Because if you don't give me anything new, I'm just going to kind of go down the one-for-one replacement road, right? We're going to do the same thing we've done until somebody says, no, have you seen this or that? Like, we're doing our best assumption to provide core tool sets in rooms, but sometimes it's hard to get faculty to come forward and say, you know what? I've been doing this for 20 years. I'd like to do something different. And like, that is just, you don't hear a lot of that.
Right. It gets stuck in what works for them, because if they venture off into something new and it doesn't work while they're teaching, they don't like looking silly. They don't like looking like they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And one faculty I remember said, I don't want to look stupid in front of my students. And then I don't want them to think that I'm dumb. And I'm like, you're not. Like, no one would think that.
that perspective permeates everywhere, I believe, because it's that identity. They feel that they must be the subject matter experts of everything that may come up in the front of that class.
Exactly.
And sometimes we find ourselves supporting on the phone, just talking to them while they're figuring it out. We're not even giving them any radical insight of what's going on. We're just there so they can be seen as, oh, you know what? This instructor cares. They're at least reaching out for some support. And we're walking through, and they're just walking through it and like, yeah, you did everything you do, and look, it's working. And it just gives them that time and space to have that like human interaction, right? And so that we're there supporting them to get that success, because they are in the front of the room. All eyes are on them.
That's right.
I was speaking with an instructor recently about active learning and about like why so many instructors are hesitant to practice some of that modality. And what they said was very much in line with what you were just talking about, that it takes a couple of sessions, a couple of experiences to learn from it, to get better at it. And so for an instructor to just switch and start implementing it, you're going to have some struggles that first class, that first couple of classes. And can instructors weather that just for the sake of trying it out when they have a solution that they're used to that works?
Right. I think it's also telling them that, like, hey, up front in this training, you're not going to know everything. Even when you go that first day, you are not going to have your flow of your classroom just yet. And it's okay. Just be patient. Your students know you're a human being. No one's going to be perfect. I think that brings down a lot of anxiety when you tell them that. They're reassured,
I think in the heightened world that we're in, where there's the Rate My Professor sites and all that stuff, like they're hyper critical of themselves because they it's their livelihood, right? And so they just, any like sense that they're fumbling or they're not tech savvy, they're afraid that's going to be used against them somehow, and it's going to. And I think we're right there. Like we are their teammates, but sometimes we have a hard time actually. Like, what are the strategies? What are the ways that we can help them through that anxiety?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
When you're having conversations, if they've come to you, they're either new or trying something new. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes.
Or they're struggling somewhere if they're coming and asking you for help or your department?
Or they're angry with the process.
Or they're...
That's usually, and that's
they're
the
angry
truth.
with the process. Unpack
Like they're
that a little
angry,
bit. Which process?
Like if I shouldn't say process, I should say experience of the room.
Just the overall.
Or,
Okay, got it.
Yeah, or right now I'm dealing with software, so if they're not happy with their experience on the software side, then they call me.
Yeah, and
so.
We've been in those situations, all of us have, where the teacher's frustrated They're like, nothing works. This has never worked. It's never worked all semester.
Never.
How many of us? It never worked. And we walk in and we're frustrated because we're like, what do you mean it doesn't work? Of course it works. Watch. And so that kind of creates that tension. And so that approach, what you're talking about, is very good, to where you can kind of diplomatically talk them through something, even if the system's working as it should, or if it's not a problem, diplomatically get them to that end result. And it kind of bridges that gap a little bit, creates that relationship going forward.
Exactly.
Now, you had said that you had kind of come from being the instructional technologist side into the design side. And I think you see this value here, and I'm trying to get it out there more, at least from your perspective, is we on this show preach, talk to your instructional designers, talk to your faculty to support, create the relationship, because most problems have an easy solution. Everybody's disjointed. From your side, is that the same kind? When you talk to your peers, when you go to your conferences or your little regional shows, is that the same conversation of reach out to your resident nerds and create the relationship? Because I feel like sometimes we preach that, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna make you the representative for all of them, all instructional designers everywhere.
Oh, wow.
We're not sure that blaming you, Marina, that you guys are out there kind of saying the same thing, like form that partnership. So that question is one, are you, or do you believe that should be something that most people or most campuses should be doing, that relationship?
Absolutely. It's like that, and I know it's totally probably what I'm saying, the saying is wrong, but I'm going to say it right. It takes a community to raise a child, that whole saying. It's the same thing when it comes to like a project or a group of people that we're trying to show a product to. It takes everybody that's involved, whether that's AV or the network side or whatnot, to come together and come up with a solution. So yes, that is voiced heavily on our side as well. So like EduCause, if you will, they bring everybody together. So yeah.
Do you find yourself at your institution trying to drive some of those conversations? Do you have weekly monthly meetings, quarterly, semesterly? I don't know. Do you have regular contact and touch points with your AV designers or your network designers to kind of strategize the whole idea, not just the stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of fortunate because I am in IT with AV is also under IT at my institution, and we have weekly
where it
meetings.
Should be correct.
Yes, I agree with that.
We're gonna challenge that assumption here in a moment. Okay.
No, but it is great because we get to talk on a weekly basis and hash out different issues. At my last institution, we formed a really nice relationship with our IDs who were not under IT. And so we would meet with them on a weekly basis, or I would set up a meeting. So it was me kind of reaching out for the group because my role was kind of like, it was a bridge between the IDs and the IT side. So that was what I did. It was nice.
Anecdotally, did you find success? Did you find that you were, as a group, as a whole, you all were received better, and it wasn't us versus them with the faculty? Did you find that, or
absolutely
could you feel like little tangible reasons that this is great?
No, it was great because we both would would piggyback on each other. We had a client experience side too, so they focused more on the technical side of software, and then the IDs would come in with pedagogy side, and so they would piggyback on each other, and it was great. And the faculty would see them together, working together, which was amazing. And it definitely communicates that we are a team and we're not separated, or it doesn't create a divide. And that's the same way with my current institution. But for my friends who are IDs, this is something that they really push for. So that way everybody knows that we're together, we're a team, you come to us for this or that kind of thing.
So I think that unanimously, everybody agrees that the relationship piece and the human element of this is critically important, right? We need that. But I can never quite shake and kind of triangulate that. Is that actually the best thing that IT is trying to do? Because a lot of times we see ITIL and ITSM coming in and saying, no, just go put the ticket in. Like, go put the ticket in and we'll respond, and we're in a reactionary role. And that burns so many instructors and so many people who want to create that relationship that they get a bad taste about that. And that's where I wanted to challenge this IT thing, because I'll curb this and say, yes, I do believe we're part of IT, but I do believe there's a lot of policy in there, in the structure of an organization, that gets in the way of this true human work that we all agree is vital to success. So how do we square that? If we have these technology professionals who have been like locked in these cages over here and said, no, you don't talk to clients. We have other people that do that. But we all want to be in that conversation, and we want to work with the instructors. Like, how do we square that as these IT identified organizations?
I think since that's a tough one, because they are locked behind, a desk for so long. If they get the chance, actually, something that we do here, which is awesome, is an open house where they get to come, and all faculty get to come and meet the whole team and ask questions, so they get to see a face. Now, again, we are small, so we can do that. But at larger institutions that I've seen, they do something like this, where they have walk-ups and things where they can meet these people who they are working with over chat and on the phones. So that, to me, establishing a face to who they're talking to is critical. And then also sending your folks through some kind of customer service, and how you're talking to them in the chat is really important. Because if not, and you just say, hold, wait, it just saw, like just one word stuff. Yeah, and it's not going to work. So the way that you talk to people over chat, over the phone, over email, and that verbiage, if it's universal in that team and sounds personable, then it's different,
Yeah, and kind of what.
So I like this open house thing. Was that everybody, like all of IT, or just all instructional?
Not you, Jamie. Everybody else.
Oh, all of IT.
Well, they don't typically like me talking to people, but no, I'm really curious because you're right. Most of the folks in some of the help desks don't come out. And I'm like, wait, does she mean just the people that usually interact, or all of them?
All of them.
Wow.
They come
out.
So
who leads that? Who spearheads that? You? Is this Marina's job? Oh.
This is actually something our institution saw that was a need. They wanted them to have a more personable experience with our team, because there was a disconnect in the past, and they wanted to mediate that. So yeah, it's great.
It's really interesting.
And that's a chance to introduce them to new tech too, because we'll put up stuff and it's not direct. It's very indirect. We post like digital signage, so it's up, and then they'll say, "Ooh, what's that?" So, nice. Yeah.
That's always the best when you have a technology you've had for a while and has been out there deployed, and you do an open house thing and somebody comes and sees it for the first time and they're like, oh, when did you do this? This is the best thing I've ever seen. And it's like, we've had that for like 10 years, man. Like
Exactly.
It's in the next building over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it's in 400 different locations.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to that ITIL friction, and what I've seen is IT wants to focus on the technology. Going, well, the technology works. What's the problem? Does it work in the space? Is it installed correctly? Is it easy to use? And I find myself having to educate some people inside of IT regarding, how confidence displays are installed, because they're just concerned. Well, does it turn on? Does it show a picture? Don't worry about it. It's like, we're dealing with consultants.
More than that.
Yeah.
And they're putting things in random places where people can't see them. That's a problem. And it goes to the experience. And you try to relate those analog things to the IT folks, and they sometimes start to get it. So that's what I see as the big challenge with ITIL and AV, is just understanding that just because a tech works doesn't mean it's a success. And Mark's preached that for a while about success in AV.
Damn it, Mark.
Yeah. Well, do you have like a consulting service that you do for faculty by chance? Because it's one thing we've had some success with, whether it be a needs out analysis, when we want to do something new, I'll often meet with departments or whoever, maybe we want to do a new space, we do all these things, and just letting them explore and have the chance to be heard. Even though at the end of the day, they've rattled off all the things, they're in a standard classroom, they feel like they've got a high-level, detailed, custom-created space that in my back pocket, I'm like, yeah, you got like a type 3 classroom. You're fine. It's the same exact thing. But they're like, oh, you came over here and you're solving all of our problems for us. And then the same thing with like teaching. Like Lawrence comes in and he will meet faculty in any space and go through and basically show them how to use standard classrooms. And it's amazing that consulting piece. I think it's well worth its weight in gold. To not have that be like the ticket correspondence. I think people want that human piece of it.
They do. And I like how you said, yes, they do want to be heard. And so if you come back and you show them your design or your functional spec, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do and this is why, and they're like, wow, I have it in writing. Like that's awesome, that they're going to do this for me. Yes, the consultation we do have here, AV, it runs that, but sometimes the faculty reach out to instructional designers to go and look at it and give pointers. And luckily for us, since we work so closely to the AV group, we can do that and then relay the information back. But it is very crucial that we hear what they want, because ultimately it is the end user that's going to be using it. And yes, maybe we already have that in our back pocket, but at least they were heard, Yeah.
Exactly. Works well for us, just allowing to get above and beyond the ticket, and like the correspondence through a service ticket of sorts just seems to go over much better.
And the buy-in, now they're like, oh, you heard me and you built something for me. I'm going to use this room, to its full capacity, and teach me more, and how can we grow it, things like that.
And I'm going to call you on your cell phone every time it breaks.
And give me your phone number.
Yeah. I've had that. I've had my business cards scanned and blown up for help. Call this person. I'm like, wait, get that off of there. It doesn't belong there. Send it to Larry.
Larry, what's on your mind?
Friction point. Larry, you're not pointing your finger today. You got.
I am not pointing my finger.
Larry's
today.
been suspiciously quiet.
Listening. I am.
He's writing all this down for his homework. Is what he's doing.
Oh yeah, homework. Seriously. I forgot Larry has homework.
Yeah. The one thing I do like, it seems like everything circling around, like when we replace rooms and systems, being more intentional about it, getting the feedback, but not replacing one for one and trying to come up with that, designing around a user experience. And I think that's an interesting idea, and it's one that, again, the IT aspect of AV probably doesn't do as much, but we're trying to get back to more here and getting away from the standard room and figuring out, okay, why are we putting in, a 300 dot cams across campus? Like, what's the user experience we're trying to design around there?
Yeah.
So I think, there's definitely an opportunity for all faculty to have a voice in that. And sometimes they just don't know where to have that voice, right? It's like, I want to be told that I'm over building spaces. I want to be wrong. I want to simplify. I want to make things more intuitive. But unless somebody comes up and says, hey, we don't need that, stop doing that. Like, our budget says we're going to do the same thing. And like prove me wrong. Like, tell me I'm doing it wrong. But then also ask, like, no, we just want to do this. Like, I would love to find like more simplified, elegant solutions.
Yeah.
I just run it all through software. So I was troubleshooting a system yesterday. I had no involvement in designing, building any of it, but I have to fix it. That all 6 USB ports on the computer were in use. And I was like,
just get a USB hub. That's easy.
Well, first of all, they'd never heard of a USB hub. Secondly, I was like, USB's bandwidth is not infinite. You can't just keep plugging in more and more devices. Oh, yes.
You just add a USB switch on top of USB hub.
I'm sure it works fine at WKU, Justin.
It'll be great.
Anyway, my thought on that was kind of
crap to work right.
My thought to that was kind of Mark's comment about trying to simplify, and clearly I think that was the approach. Let's take out all this stuff and we'll just plug in the USB. It's easier. I'm like, it's not quite the same thing there. So
USB. Yeah.
One topic I did want to raise that we haven't really talked about is what about this? We talked about faculty who complain, and those are maybe good champions to start with and kind of figure out what they're driving at, that sort of thing. But we all have these spaces that faculty hate, and they hate teaching in them. And a lot of them are also ones that the IT folks also hate, and they hate maintaining and operating them. Many of these are built by committee. They're built as part of a new building. There's often kind of, and Jamie referred to it earlier, these questionable new modalities where someone from on high says, we are going to do the following in our new $40 million facility that's going to take 6 years. So 6 years from now, it's going to be way outdated. What's the approach to trying to, find common ground or try to be successful supporting faculty's teaching and learning in a space that everybody seems to hate and is just a terrible experience for everyone involved, but yet by gun, we just built this for $40 million. We're going to use the crap out of it for the next 10 years. So
make it sounds like we just got to burn it down.
Yeah.
It's like everybody hates it, just burn it.
I'm just curious because this is something that comes up, at least from my perspective, at multiple institutions a lot when there's this new fancy thing, and it's usually pretty bad.
Yeah, we've seen the same thing. And that's when we come in and we try to find a way that that will work for them. It's like, okay, so what are you doing in the space? What are you doing in your course? What are you teaching, and showing them how they could use the space to best support that, I guess. But also, the AV team steps up and is like, okay, like, I know this sucks, but here's this. Let's add, let me give you this or that just to try to supplement for this room. But it really comes down to, okay, yes, this doesn't work. Let's find another solution that you could, use within your teaching, and then training, I guess, with that. And meeting with all of those people who use that room, finding out who are they, and then reaching out to them and saying, hey, here's a training that you can come, this workshop, so we can explore ways of using this space. Or here's how this champion or this faculty member is using the space. And so that they can learn from their peers, as well. So, awkward silence.
I think that peer aspect.
Justin, stop burning things. Larry, go.
I think that peer aspect is where I've seen the most success. Like when you have an instructor who is successful in a space, you market them and you promote them like crazy, because that will drive it. It's no longer AV or instructional designer saying this is a possible solution. It's somebody in their role who is being successful.
Exactly. It's like those rooms that we had some rooms that were using Zoom rooms and they were configured a certain way.
The wrong way.
There's only
probably.
one way. There is no other way. It's the Zoom way.
You do it with Zoom.
No.
You do it that way, and that's done.
That's true. You're not lying there.
It's bad.
But it can be intimidating being in a classroom using that system, right? But there were a handful of faculty that were using it and using it well. And it was quite impressive. And I said, hey, you want to come and show people what you're doing? And it can be online if you want, where you're actually teaching from the space and we are joining offsite. Like, that would be cool to see too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So
Putting
we had
yourself in the student's shoes. That's a great point.
Yes. And we had half of them do that, which was cool. So some did it in person in one of the classrooms that had a Zoom room, and some taught from another Zoom room, which was cool. So I think, yes, Larry, it's huge, learning from another peer.
I'm curious. A lot of times when we're designing the in-room AV experience, right, we take an educated guess and kind of give you or the faculty tools. What was the last one that you personally reversed that, where you went to the designer and said, this is coming down the pipe, can you help me? Like, this is going to be big, this is the trend, I'm going to say high flex, but that's not what I meant. What was the last one that you kind of flipped that script and said, hey, designers, this is going to hit your plate in the next 2 years. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Have you had one? What is it?
Auditoriums. I think that, auditoriums, like large teaching spaces. And how to, like, what if students need to join remotely in an auditorium? And how does a faculty member teach in a large space with that functionality? You know, what does that look like? Also, how does a faculty member teach in a large space, like with technology?
In general, yeah.
it was both things, right? Like, it just all the modalities. Like, how does that work? And so, since we were looking at renovating those 3 huge teaching spaces, I mean, they sat around 300 maybe students. So if we have to, you know, have that many students in place, how do we still get those best teaching practices in this type of space? Because faculty, and so this is that scenario where we brought champions together that teach in that type of space, and they really wanted to get away from that traditional auditorium look to something that was more that you would get out of a smaller classroom, you know. And so, how
did they accomplish that? I mean,
took all the chairs out.
One small example.
Classroom and around.
You know, I left during that project. I got it started, and then I left.
So, deuces, I'm out.
I got you to choose your own adventure, and then you quit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was such a cool project. But no. We actually got like a plan together, which is we just needed to collect a little bit more research, but they were leaning more towards like the round kind of look where faculty could walk through the aisles, if that makes sense. So it was all about seating too. So we were actually collaborating, going back to that piece of collaborating with different departments. We were collaborating with facilities and talking about seating and things like that. So it was really taking off. Now, I don't know where they are now, but it really was, and the conversation was amazing. And we even got it all the way up to our provost at the time. So, and he was really interested in that conversation. So,
excellent.
I don't know.
Well, I would love to keep going on this. This has been a fantastic conversation. Marina, we'll have to have you back to talk more about this, and then you can report on what they did in that room that you're now teasing. That they did something awesome, but I don't know what it was, and I'm not going to tell you.
Cliffhanger.
It's a cliff.
Totally
Yes.
will find out.
So, folks, you'll have to join us next month for the exciting conclusion to this discussion.
Part 2.
So, again, I want to thank you very much for joining us and giving a different perspective. This has been fantastic because we only see it from one side. I have one last question for you, and that's if you had one piece of advice to give to all the IT people out there who are listening, what from the instructional design side, from the other side of what is that piece of advice? And if it's probably like, don't tell people to submit it as a ticket, but.
Well, try to build relationships with the faculty that you can, because they really will go to bat for you. And also, it just builds a better experience for them and also your team, and brings lets people know that you're there for them, truly there for them, and they'll want to go back to you. So build those connections, build those relationships.
And that is fantastic advice, by the way. My first role as an IT person was working for the faculty development office, and so I saw that from the other side. And those personal relationships, those carried forth for years and years and years. So that's a great way to go. Yeah. Well, free plug time. Why don't you tell people how to reach out and find you and get a hold of you and ask you what happened to that awesome room you were designing. But how can people get in touch?
Definitely through my LinkedIn. Are you all sharing that by chance?
It will be in the notes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You can look in the notes and find my LinkedIn.
Your followers will increase by ones.
Tens.
Many tens of people will look at your LinkedIn. So.
Perfect.
All right. Well, this has been great. We'll have to return to this conversation because it's definitely one aspect. I think we're all a little guilty of kind of staying in our own lanes, things that we're comfortable with and things that we know. Recognizing, of course, we need to expand that, but we don't always want to do it. So we'll come back. Any last words from anybody else? Last bit. I'm going to push a button.
Push button. Thanks for coming on here and chatting with us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. That was great.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for putting up with yet another episode of AV SuperFriends On Topic. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at avsuperfriends.com.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients. AV SuperFriends On Topic is an independent production wholly owned and operated by AV SuperFriends, LLC. For the highest quality recording of all of our shows, visit avsuperfriends.com. Sorry, hit the wrong button. All right. So, back to faculty support. Yeah, leave all that shit in there. I don't care. Seriously, at this point, you do 130 of these things and you're getting a little callous about it. So